Hi everybody, I'm Sunchit. I'll be telling you about how to prepare for the IIIT Hyderabad interview. So like I will be focusing on the following four topics. Number one is what are the topics that you should cover. What are the subjects that you should really prepare well. How should you build a resume and because there's a lot of hype about machine learning in IIIT. So we'll discuss about what aspects of machine learning you need to cover if at all, and if you do need to cover, then how should we approach that segment also. So it's a specific note that let's start with the topics. So basically, there are many interview panels. So depending on the interview panel, there will be different topics and there will be a coverage of various topics. But what you will be asked will be dependent on what you present in the interview. So let us say that while introducing yourself, you mention a set of subjects. So there's a very high probability that in those subjects, questions will appear from those subjects only. So, as in my case, what happened was that at the end of my introduction, I firmly mentioned that I have an affinity for data structures and algorithms. So, most of my interview circled around data structures and algorithms, and that happens generally in any interview. So, that would be a plus point for you to highlight the subjects that you really know, so that they are asked. So, I would uh, before moving just straight to the topic also, I would suggest you to make your introduction really strong, and inside your introduction include the subjects or the topics you really know, and because there's a high probability you'll be questioned on that. As far as IIIT is concerned, the all the professors would know in general algorithms, would know in general data structures, would in general, they'll not question you more often about automata or anything, because that is not one thing that's asked there. They might go to compilers if you say automata, but that happened in my case, not in any other person's case that as if I've heard. But algorithms, data structures, operating systems, DBMS, these are and sometimes networks. So these are the four major subjects that we would be questioned on. So algorithms, data structures, OS and DBMS are a mandatory and a must for everybody to know. Apart from these subjects, you might be asked questions on maths, which is the maths which we deal in GATE. So it will not be very different from GATE. It might be related to basically linear algebra, or more often related to graph theory or something. So when I talk of algorithms, then we'll talk of graph theory and linear algebra also there. So let's start with the subjects. So basically, you need to have a set of strong subjects that you can mention, and you can where you feel comfortable to be anything, if anything is asked, you should be able to answer in that. So I would recommend at least four important subjects that you decide and you study on them. But as far as IIIT is concerned, I would recommend you to study algorithm, data structure, OS and DBMS. Why I do not recommend networks is a different story. That is because I realized that although people have clear interview from networks, some of them were in the field of networks, and the questions asked might be of a level that is not covered in the course books. So uh, there might be a gap between what they expect and what you deliver. So I would not recommend you to say networks, but if that is your subject, then you can go for it. But I would not recommend that. I would recommend you to study algorithms. So what in algorithms exactly? So basically, the interview might go around from very basics of algorithm. You should have a very clear idea about uh, all the complexity. However you calculate complexity, you have to be really sure about the master method. You really have to be sure about like what is the if you're given an algorithm, what is the complexity there. You really have to be sure about that, how the tree method works, and what is the in what different cases what algorithms give what type of complexity. um, they usually ask simple questions like what is the complexity of the quicksort algorithm, which you can answer because that becomes tricky for some students. But like in general, they'll like for my case, they gave me a code and told me to evaluate the complexity there. So that was one thing I realized in algorithms, that complexity is really is what they'll ask on. Then they might have questions on graph algorithms, because um, there's a lot of research there. So these people deal with graph algorithms a lot. So I think this is one topic that they'll really look for. In other interviews also, I've realized that graph is one topic in algorithms that everybody wants you to know. So really prepare graphs very well. So let's start with graphs. So for graphs and algorithms, you should have these algorithms covered really well. One is the BFS, one is the DFS, then Digistra's, then Prims, then Kruskal's, Bellman-Ford, maximum flow, fold cushion, and Floyd-Warshall. So these algorithms should be on the tip of your hand. So like how to prepare for these algorithms, I think the gate notes will be enough, but you still should have a flow of the code in your hand. Like prepare you should at least be able to write the pseudocode of the algorithm, and you should have a gist about the complexity analysis of the algorithm, that what is the complexity of the algorithm, how does this work, and a basic intuition about the algorithm. So usually if you are very clear with these algorithms and you're clear with the complexity analysis, the interview feels that you know algorithms really well. But in certain cases, he might ask you basic questions of dynamic programming and a little bit about recursion. So do some questions about like dynamic programming, simple questions, that coin change problem and all that, one or two problems. So he might ask you, so you have to give examples. That's why I'm saying that. And some questions on recursion, he might that might also be needed in the complexity analysis. So in algorithms, I feel there are a lot of important topics that you can study and your interview might go towards, but like I feel that these ones are really important. Other topics that you should cover in algorithms uh, might be the advanced data structures that we'll discuss in DS only. So I'll move to DS. So for data structures, first you should be really clear about basic data structures, that are stacks and queues and linked lists and trees. So usually they start from stacks and queues. So what they asked me was that what if I put a stack inside a queue? So how will that work? But like then they expect you to question that, like what is the capacity of the inside stack or the queue, whatever is given. So because stacks and queues have infinite capacity, so there it has to be a very you have to ask questions even after they ask you questions, because sometimes they check your basic concepts with that. So like in DS, like you should stick with the basic data structures first. You should revise your stacks, your queues, your linked list, your arrays, and basic programs with that. Also like when you have a when you revise data structures, you should know what is the point of difference between each and every data structure and where does that apply. For example, they might question you on differences between graphs and trees relative to some problem, that given this scenario, would a tree data structure be more suitable than a graph data structure, and why not. So it would be a little application based when if you go to data structure, but like it would go really well if you can answer most of the questions. um, they might go to two of a little complex data structures, which are AVL trees and red black trees, but there's the low possibility, but I would still recommend you to study AVL trees and red black trees in in this case. So if you have a general idea about how the data structure works and their complexities, you'll again deal with complexity when we talk about data structure. If you have a general idea about how they work and what are the complexities, you'll have any the interview will be really easy for you. Talking about operating system is one area that these people would want you to have a little idea about Linux, but even if you don't have idea about Linux, it's okay. More often they'll stick to topics that you tell them. For in my case, it was scheduling. So uh, they went into depths of scheduling. They asked me how scheduling techniques are different from each other, and what scheduling is better and when is it better. So you really have to judge your answer before, weigh your answer before giving it. So in my case, I told them that scheduling techniques, you cannot compare them. They're problem specific, so you just can't compare them. So they asked me where in what application based technique applies. So I frame different problems for different techniques. So you should have a comparative analysis between different techniques and how they work, and also complexity analysis when different techniques are taken together. So scheduling was one part where they laid focus on. Other part on in the OS was basically uh, the area where semaphores and locks are there. So they also focused on in the area where file disk structures are there. So disk scheduling and all those problems. So OS is one area that usually they ask you what do you know best in OS, because it's a very long topic. So they don't expect you to know everything, but you should be clear in whatever you say there. As far as DBMS is concerned, so DBMS, the major focus in most of the interviews last year were number one, B plus trees, normalization, the disk structures, um, B plus tree, yeah, normalization, disk structures, and queries. So they might give you table structures, schemas, and tell you to formulate queries on that. So you should be it should be handy for you to make queries on SQL, and also generalized queries on relational algebra, not in SQL also. So if you're comfortable with both, and concepts of B and B plus tree, and some concepts of normalization also, so DBMS would not be very heavy for you in that case. I would not recommend you to say you know a lot of networks, but if if you do, then you really prepare well for networks. As far as I know, most of the students who said that they knew networks, they were some were asked tricky questions, but you should really know the layer structure very well, and you should know why every layer was put in, why, what is the use of each and every layer. You should know how the difference between aloha, slotted aloha, and all those schemes. They would really get deep into networks, and sometimes it's a gamble. I feel, if you say networks, so I would not recommend you to say networks, but if that is the if that is the only thing you really know, then that's fine. But prepare really well. I mentioned another subject called graph theory because I really had command on graph theory that time. So graph theory went really well for me. They asked me questions about different types of structures, like what do you mean by an augmentation point and all that. So I answered them really well. They asked me some theorems that have already been discussed in the coaching. So if you're saying graph theory, it's a safer bet because the course is compact. So because the course is compact, it really needs understanding, but the course is still compact. And I feel that when you talk about graph theory, so they just expect the portions which are already covered in the coaching, so you don't really have to think out of the box, and doing all the questions that have already been asked in gate will really help in graph theory. Like they cover usually everything whatever the interviewers will ask. That happened with me for all the interviews I gave. So graph theory for me was comfortable also and a safer bet, so I usually said graph theory. But if you say graph theory, prepare it really well, because these people are dealing with graphs a lot, so they know it really well. So and when we say graph theory, and if you're not saying algorithms, so be prepared to be asked about questions of graphs in algorithms also. Like they relate the topics of algorithms, um, the topic graphs in algorithms and graph theory also. So be prepared to answer questions related to both. So this is what, like, I would recommend you to study 4 subjects really well. I've given like brief analysis about what I felt about these 4 subjects which I prepared, but you might have a different choice of subjects. I would not really recommend you to say I well I did it. I said I knew automata really well. That was my favorite subject, but then it took a different turn because they did not really ask me anything about automata. They asked me everything about compilers, because they thought there was a relation between automata and compilers, and so they asked me about compilers. So if you're not really handy with compilers, so I would not recommend you to say automata. um, it might be a very strong subject, as in my case it was. This is what I feel, but like, if you feel that the interview is going really out of hand, you might say automata if you really know it really well, because automata is one subject that most of the students really like. So I would say that say it if you feel that the interview is going out of hand, but not before that. So this is what I feel I would like to say about the subjects. In brief, I would tell you to prepare 4 subjects really very well. Do all type of questions that you can. Look on the internet for all type of interview questions that can be asked. There have been some previous years questions and answers and interview discussions have already been posted on the group for IIIT. Do check them out and see whatever questions you can drive out of the discussions posted there. So you'll have a question set now, because the interviewers don't change really, so the same type of question will be asked every year. And make your the introduction really strong, and mention your 4 or 3 or whatever subjects you really like in the introduction. So if they are mentioned in the introduction, there's a very high probability that the interview would be driven through like in the 4 subjects or in 3 subjects, whatever you mentioned there. So and you really have to know about these subjects. If you are, then the interview will be very a piece of cake for you. It will be very easy. Let me move to the resume section. So I've been a lot of people have been pinging me for how they should make a resume. So I would say that the resume should be a little technical. It should not be very like, it should not look very kiddish. Like, I've seen a lot of resumes of students which do not cover the main areas which they should. Like, they should target on subjects, on projects. They should target on areas where uh, which actually matter to the interviewer. Like for IIIT, whenever you're giving a resume, they don't clearly look for if you've participated in dances or if you've ran a marathon or not. They'll be looking for stuff that you've done some project, or you have some um, technical skill or something. So with that said, uh, I would not say that, like, entirely remove everything, but you can. But I would like, it's optional. But I would say that make your resume look a little professional. I could show you a snapshot of my resume. I could show you a snapshot of my resume. My resume is basically, it's a company resume, so your resume will be a little different from my resume. but still it's a technical resume. So because it's a technical resume, so your resume might be on lines with my resume. So I'll show you my resume. So I have mentioned my experiences, whatever I had. I mentioned my internship at Raman Classes, RWX. I mentioned my education, uh, mentioned whatever technical skills I had, which were programming languages I used, the technologies I worked with, and then I straight away went to my projects. So, like whatever projects I had made, and brief line about it, and whatever technologies were involved in the project. So I just mentioned the technologies involved. So I throughout my resume I did not mention any um, like points where uh, like whatever I have to do, like extracurricular activities, or though I would say you can still mention, like I had mentioned them when I was giving my IIIT uh, interview, but I don't feel that that's necessary um, anyhow. So I would not recommend you to make it very non-technical. uh, if you can make it technical, then that's very good. I'll just show you if I have a copy of my resume. Yeah, so this is the resume. So this is the resume that I usually have. So the resume is very simple. It covers my education, it covers my projects, my skills, and some personal details. So it's it, it's for a company. So I have written some introductory line there which you do not need, or maybe if you're interested in research you can mention there. But like I would recommend you to include your education section, the project section, your skill section, and the personal details. Apart from these, I would recommend you to mention the subjects you really like in your resume, because it's a resume which it's an academic resume. You're looking for an institution, so I would recommend you to mention the subjects of interest in the resume only. um, if you could mention it somewhere in the, like I would not say make a like this resume is more than one page because of the number of projects, but if you don't have a lot of projects, try to keep it short and simple, one page resume, and highlight the subjects you want to be questioned on. So while we discussing on the resume portion, I would like to redefine the word resume here. So resume is, it's like a question paper and an answer sheet both. Basically, whatever you want the interviewer to question you on should be on the resume. Let's say you've done a you've done 10 fancy projects, but you know about 3 of them. So I would recommend you to keep just 3 projects on the resume which we know really well, because the resume will finally become your own question paper. They'll dig into the projects you've made. They'll expect you to know everything written on the resume, because they don't expect you to know everything in the world, but they expect you to be at least be honest with them. So if you write things in the resume which you don't know, then they feel that it's it's like being dishonest with them or something. So this is a general advice that if you don't know something about your resume, remove it from your resume. Like straight of all, remove it from your resume. If you've done a project, it's good enough, you write it down. If you've not done a project, then at least in this coming month, either, like I would not say make a project, but like then understand somebody's project, but really really well. Like you should know the everything in the project, like everything, I mean everything. They might even ask you what difficulties you faced while making the project, and then you might be trapped if you've not done the project, or it's been taken from somebody else. But like, if you are writing something in your resume, you should know it in breadth and depth. So remove everything fancy in the resume, like from projects you don't know, from stuff you just write because you feel it looks cool on the resume. I'm telling you, the resume will be a question paper. So whatever you write on the resume, be prepared to answer every single line of that. Like, if you look at a project, let's say Goofy Coin, a simple cryptocurrency based system. So they might ask you in the project what the Goofy Coin was all about. Then they might go to cryptocurrency. Then they might go to the blockchain structure, because I've already mentioned there. Then they might go to the advanced concepts of blockchain. They might go to Bitcoin, that because that's related to this thing. They might go to the advanced concepts of Bitcoin. So basically, the total discussion would just not remain on the project, but also rotate around the technology, that is blockchain here, would remain about the hot topics nearing the technology, in this case which is Bitcoin. So whatever you mention, whatever project you mention, be be really sure about whatever you've done in the project, whatever technologies you've used in the project. You have to be thorough with the technologies used in the projects, the implementation of the project. And plus, if the technology is based on some let's say like in this case Goofy Coin was based on blockchain, like in other cases your projects might be run based on machine learning, so then they will go into machine learning also. So until and unless you have mentioned machine learning on your resume, or you straightforwardly say that I know machine learning, or one of your projects or any of your projects involved machine learning, then they would question you on machine learning. In the other case, if your project is not about machine learning, or you don't have machine learning at all wherever, so there is a probability that you might not be asked machine learning. Though machine learning is one area that usually students are questioned about, because they expect you to know basics of machine learning right from your bachelor's, though you do basics of machine learning right at triple ID, but that's a different story. But like, if you have mentioned machine learning, I would tell you a track that you should at least know. So we'll come to machine learning in a minute. For resume, I would like to wind up by saying that include your education. If you've got a good percentages or aggregates, do mention them. If you have really bad aggregates, so don't mention them. They might ask your gate score. If you've got a good gate score, mention it on your resume. Mention your projects, mention your subjects in which you have a command on. You mention your skills, like whatever languages you use and whatever tools you use, and mention your personal details. So don't mention really fancy stuff that you've done a dance or you've done a marathon, because that doesn't really matter, and more often it makes your resume look more childish, and they expect more mature people there, so they might feel like they might not take it really well. So I would not recommend you doing that. So 2 or 3 people mention latex in their resume. So if you are mentioning latex in the resume, it's a good habit to make a resume in latex, because latex resumes really shine out well. Like, this resume is made in latex, so they fundamentally look very well, and like, these people realize that it's made in latex or not. So if you have mentioned latex in your resume, so make your resume in latex. Like, that is just an advice, but like, that is after whatever I have mentioned. So let's talk about machine learning. So machine learning is only for you when in case you mention machine learning, and in case you either have a project in machine learning, or you are willing to say that I am interested in machine learning or something like that. So in all of these circumstances, you open yourself to an entirely new domain. which I won't say that I don't recommend or anything, because there have been a lot of students, especially from our coaching Raman classes, that have cracked the interview through machine learning. Shivani Sethi is one example. She the entire interview was based on machine learning, but the way she studied and presented out the concepts, they the interviewers were convinced that she had worked hard and she got selected. And there have been other examples also from our coaching which have been uh, asked machine learning, and a lot of students have really answered questions out. So machine learning is one domain that you can study, and they don't expect you to know everything in detail. As in Shivani's case, she did not answer one or two questions, but she gave an intuition, and she asked them back, like, that if they could answer, like they could tell the answer. So they willingly told the answer to the question, and they were happy enough with the intuition and whatever she had told, so she got selected. In the other case, that there have been cases where the students say that they know machine learning, but when they're asked basic concepts of machine learning, they're unable to tell them. And that is very bad if you write something in your resume and you don't know it in detail. Like last year, one of the students had written SVM in a project he had made, but he did not know what SVM was. So the interview didn't take it really well. So he was not selected, unfortunately. So like basically, it's like if you mention 5 segments in your resume, let's say you mention the word SVM, or you mention the word perceptron, or you mention any word in a resume, then you are bound to be questioned on it. So prepare really well. So there, so like depends on your resume. So because there's a 1 month left in your interview, and I understand that you all of you people really have prepared really well for gate. So I would, if you only are comfortable on speaking on machine learning, and if you mentioned on your resume, so I would strongly recommend you to go through this course on machine learning from Andrew NG. So this course is from Stanford. So this guy is this guy is like, this guy will teach you stuff that they might question you on. Like, this is one of the most popular courses there. This will not take a lot of effort. Like you have still 1 month remaining. If you give 10-20 days on this will really work wonders. Shivani and other students who cleared the interview like had studied from this course only. I would also recommend you to do a bit of maths when you say machine learning, and that's some additional topics which Andrew NG will not cover, like perceptron, because and so most of the students have mentioned SVMs. That's why I'm writing SVM, though it's a little advanced. But I would strongly recommend you to, apart from Andrew NG, learn the maths. Like perceptron has not been covered in the course, so study it from elsewhere. Uh, a source might be PK Biswas. Like you can look at online lectures of PK Biswas, but they'll be too mathematical in nature. You might not understand it fully, so look at some other videos before directly jumping to PK Biswas. But I would recommend you to know the maths of perceptron and linear regression at least, if you say you know machine learning, because normally they'll question you on machine, like perceptron, linear regression, and then they start from differences between supervised, unsupervised learning, and like what are types of machine learning and all that. But they will reach perceptron and linear regression at least. So Most of the students had been questioned on these topics, so and they're really hot topics there. So in the interview, so I would strongly recommend you to at least do this thing, uh, Andrew NG course, perceptron and linear regression, and SVM, and a maths of at least perceptron, linear regression, and SVM if you mentioned on the resume. So some additional points I would like to cover when talk about machine learning. So there are very advanced technologies which you might have used in your projects. I saw some resumes mentioning NLP. I saw some resumes mentioning convolutional neural networks. Though they look very good on the resume. They bring a different impact, but then you'll be questioned on them. So if you've mentioned NLP on your resume, you should know what techniques in NLP you've used, what is NLP, and the stuff like revolving around it, because most of the professors which will be taking your interview are dealing with the NLP and decision like trees and all these stuff for a lot of time. So they have done a lot of research there. So they'll be, if you go into their domain, so they'll be asking you questions. So I would say, like, if you've written something in your resume, you know it really well. And if you are not being able to deal with whatever, I understand there are time constraints. You have only 1 month to go. So if you're not being able to deal with it really well, so I would recommend you to not mention it on the resume. It will be better to not mention something on the resume than mentioning something you don't really know. So if you mention something, you know it really well. I would say that neural networks and stuff, if you mention in resume, though Andrew NG will help you with that, and there'll be some other lectures which which might help you, uh, one like in neural networks also. But like if you go to advanced concepts in neural network, let's say convolutional neural networks and other types of neural networks, so really study them that I would say, and do a little bit of maths behind whatever you, because they'll ask you why a particular technique was used. They'll question you on, like, if you're going if you're using an SVM, like most of the resumes mention SVM, so they'll ask you that why did you use SVM, why did you not use a basic perceptron or a linear regression model there. So you really have to know that why is SVM better than linear regression, than the perceptron, sorry. So why is SVM better than perceptron, and what is the difference between SVM and perceptron? In general, what is linear regression? What is if you use regression somewhere, then you have to know what is linear regression, what are the other forms of regression, and stuff relating to that. So I would, on your resume, be very selective on whatever you write, because your resume will become your question paper. So be very selective on whatever you write in a resume. If they go to an entirely new domain which you are sure you cannot answer questions about, so it's better to say that I am not really sure about this domain, because let's say give your intuition really well, that let's say they might ask you something that you have an intuition about, or you have a thought about. So present your intuition there, but you also mention that I am not really sure about the domain, so that they don't really like start digging in the domain into an area where you are uncomfortable and the interview doesn't really go very well. I would rather recommend you to, in the introduction, mention the domain you want. Like, don't specifically say that I want to be questioned on algorithms. You can say that I have a liking for algorithms and data structures, or you might say that I have been recently studying algorithms and data structures, and that has been my motivation to come here and research on them, or whatever. Like, but somehow mention whatever your favorite subjects are in the introduction, and like emphasize them on your resume. So and also in the projects, maybe like if your like projects are not dealing with machine learning and you're not really wanting to say machine learning, then ignore whatever I've said about machine learning. Don't prepare for machine learning. uh, if you're interested in, do, but like in general I would say don't. uh, but if any of these cases applies to you, that you have it on your resume or you mention it or anyway, so in that case prepare for machine learning also. So this would be my analysis for the triple ID interview that I had, and I would recommend you to at least go through it and prepare really well, especially for people that uh, don't feel that they have a better option than triple ID Hyderabad. At the end, I want to just tell you a few facts about triple ID Hyderabad. You might feel comforted. So there have been students coming to triple ID Hyderabad who have not even given gate, and though the knowledge in these students is really good, so they did prepare for triple ID really well, but there are students which are not given gate. There are students who have had a rank of 5,000, 6,000 also. So I would not say whatever rank you have in gate, don't be demotivated with it. You might have a very good rank, then that will obviously be an advantage. They might question you on your rank, and then you'll have a wonderful rank to tell them. And don't be ashamed of whatever you rank you have. That doesn't really matter, and in the interview that won't matter. They are looking not for people that have great ranks, because if they were looking for that, then they would have selected on you on gate. So, and I'm telling you, rank won't really matter. Though if you have a very good rank, then it's a plus point. But in a general case, it won't really matter. So whatever rank you have, and it give it your best shot. And triple ID Hyderabad especially would be like, it's wonderful. Like prepare prepare for the interview with the intensity in which you've been preparing for gate. Like give adequate hours, because you don't know, like going to coming to triple ID Hyderabad would be a blessing. I'm telling you, everybody who's come to triple ID Hyderabad has been really happy about it. There are wonderful, whatever you expect you get. Like you want research, you want to do research, you have ample opportunities to do research. I'm telling you, you'll have more opportunities than you just want to explore. And as far as placements is concerned, it's the best. So really be excited about whatever you are going to get, and prepare with that intensity, because it's very rewarding to come to triple ID Hyderabad. But at the same time, with all the rewards, you really have to prepare for the interviews. So I would say that really prepare well for the interview with the intensity that you'll do it. uh, and I'm telling you, it will not be a very tough interview if you prepare well. uh, Although there have been students who really prepared well for the gate, they didn't prepare for the interview, they got selected. But then these people really had put a lot of effort in the gate, and bunch of concepts are cleared, so it's done. Like you just have to clear your concepts really well, and luckily they were questioned on the whatever concepts they knew. So I'm I would recommend you to prepare really well for the interview. Most of the people have really prepared for the interview who have been selected last year, and on the like both the batches I've interacted with, people have really put in efforts for the interview also. And there's a very good chance, like out of 200, like if 60, 70, 80 odd people, like depends on the batch, but like on my senior batch about 87 people were there, in my batch about 70 people were there. So out of 200, if like talking about my senior batch, if 80, 70 people are selected, there's a very high probability that you will be selected. And especially you'll be competing with students also uh, from some of the people like might have come there by sheer luck, which you do not have. So you have a really high chance. Like, I would just recommend you to not waste the chance. Study for the month and come to triple ID, and put whatever effort you can. I know two things start hindering you after gate. One, you lose the enthusiasm to study because the gate is over and that's the target. But I'm telling you that there'll be this would be the best thing that might happen. So really prepare hard for it, right? Really prepare hard for it. The second thing, I think that some of you, most of you, would have got placed in some of the other companies and given gate or something, and you might not be expecting really good results from gate, or you even might be. In both the cases, you lose your enthusiasm to prepare for the interview. That is that is that creates the difference between the people who get selected and who do not. So do not do that mistake. Do not do that mistake. You'll realize there's a different opinion about whatever jobs you're getting there. I'm telling you, you get 100 times better jobs here. So do not be influenced by whatever job you're getting after your bachelor's. Really study hard. If you've got this opportunity and you've cleared the written round, it's nothing less than a miracle to really just study for it and get it. I'm telling you, things will be miraculous here. You'll be dealing with a lot of better things than you've expected. So don't lose your enthusiasm. Start. If you're not already studying, start studying. If you are studying, increase your time and dedicate yourself more. I understand your university exams are also on the head, but I'm telling you, these exams, triple ID especially, this interview would matter more than a university exam. So I would not say don't study for them, but like study for them as much as you have been in your bachelor's. But really prepare well for triple ID interview, and I'm telling you, you'll be really happy once you come here. All the best for all the students, and congratulations to everybody who've been clearing the written round for triple ID. And I'm sure, like, Raman classes students have always excelled in the writtens and the interviews both. In my batch, there are 6-7 students uh, from Raman classes, and for a batch of about 60-65 people, 7-8 students, like 6-7 whatever, like 10-12% from Raman classes is a very big number. And I'm telling you, like, if you're from Raman classes, then you have a massive advantage that you the depth of concepts nobody else does. So it's a blessing because you've been a student for Raman classes. It's a blessing for you. So don't waste it. Like, study really well for the interview, and best of luck. I'm sure that everybody who's been clearing the written round from Raman classes will surely be selected. But along with it, do prepare and prepare accordingly. And best of luck and congratulations on your clearing the written round. And if you have any queries, you can email me. So my email ID is Sunchit Sharma IIITH@gmail.com. Plus you can also contact me. Yeah, so this is my mobile number, this is my email ID. You can contact me on any of them, and just keep in touch, and everything will happen for good. Do check out the page there on Facebook that has been dedicated to all this. Especially extract out the interviews from there. Best of luck. Everything will happen for good. I hope to see a very good batch of a lot of students from Raman classes next year also. And all the best. See you.